Barefoot, with an old backpack and steady eyes, she dismantled more than just a technical defect. She fixed a mechanical failure and revealed what lay behind the arrogant laughter. And the world discovered that sometimes the engine that fails is that of prejudice. If this beautiful story of resilience and love interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you are watching us from. Continuing. The white smoke billowing from the hood of the gold Mercedes-Benz S-Class looked like a cloud of humiliation hanging over Fifth Avenue. Arthur Harrison, at 52, felt sweat trickling down his forehead as he watched the traffic around him dissolve into chaos. Horns echoed like shouts of protest, drivers gestured angrily, and cell phones were already appearing in car windows, ready to turn his misfortune into entertainment. "This cannot be happening," he muttered, gripping the steering wheel tightly. The car that had cost over $100,000, his passion and status symbol, had betrayed him at the worst possible moment. It was the eve of the launch of his new luxury vehicle dealership, and being stranded in the middle of New York City's busiest avenue with a failing engine felt like a cruel joke of fate. Arthur grabbed his phone and dialed the official roadside assistance. The robotic voice of the automated service made him grit his teeth. When he finally reached a human, the answer was devastating: a minimum 3-hour wait due to heavy Friday afternoon traffic. 3 hours? He exploded. "Do you realize who I am? I'm Arthur Harrison, owner of Harrison Premium Motors." On the other end of the line, the cold response: "Sir, we will do our best, but traffic is backed up across the entire borough." The honking grew louder, more insistent. In the rearview mirror, he saw a line of cars forming. Some drivers were already stepping out of their vehicles, approaching with curiosity. The situation was slipping out of his control, something Arthur did not tolerate. He had built an empire based on perfection, control, and an impeccable image. That breakdown wasn't just a mechanical problem, it was a direct attack on his reputation. It was then that he saw a small figure approaching along the sidewalk. A girl of about 8 years old, wearing worn clothes stained with grease, carried a torn school backpack on her back. Her brown hair was tied with a simple elastic band, and her small hands had dark marks that betrayed a familiarity with oil and metal. She walked with determined steps, observing the smoking car with an expression far too serious for her age. Lily Grace Miller lived just 3 blocks away, in a struggling neighborhood tucked behind the commercial skyscrapers. Every day she walked along that avenue on her way to school, watching the expensive cars she could never touch. But unlike other children who dreamed of merely riding in those vehicles, Lily dreamed of understanding how they worked. Her father, John Miller, 38, was a mechanic who worked in a small, humble shop just a few yards away. A widower for 3 years after his wife, Mary, passed away from pneumonia due to a lack of resources for proper treatment, John raised Lily alone, struggling to pay the rent for the shop and keep his daughter in school. Lily had inherited not just a passion for engines from her father, but an almost supernatural intuition for diagnosing mechanical problems. While other children played with dolls, she took apart old radios and studied technical manuals John brought from the shop. She knew how to identify different types of smoke, recognize engine sounds, and even calculate the lifespan of a part just by observing its wear. As she approached the stalled Mercedes, Lily immediately identified the problem. The sweet smell mixed with steam, the specific color of the smoke, and the irregular sound of the engine still trying to turn over. A leak in the cooling system, likely a ruptured hose or a faulty water pump. Arthur noticed the girl approaching, and his face contorted in an expression of contempt. "Get away from there, kid. This is no place for you," he shouted through the cracked window. "Go play somewhere else." Lily stopped but didn't move away. Her brown eyes sparkled with a mixture of determination and hurt. "Your car has a problem with the water pump," she said in a clear voice despite her young age. "I can help." Arthur's response was a bitter laugh. "You? A dirty child helping with my car?" He looked around, noticing more people approaching, some with phones in hand. "This is all I needed. Now I'm going to be a laughingstock for accepting help from a street kid." The words cut Lily like knives. She had heard similar comments before whenever she tried to help someone or show her knowledge. To most people, a poor, dirty girl couldn't possibly know anything about expensive cars. She was always seen as a nuisance, a stain on the urban landscape that should remain invisible. At that moment, other cars from Arthur's entourage arrived at the scene. Charles "Charlie" Sterling, 45, his partner and best friend since youth, pulled his own BMW up alongside and stepped out with an amused expression. "Arthur, what on earth is this?" he asked, barely containing his laughter. "The king of luxury cars stranded on Fifth Avenue?" Other businessmen from the group also stepped out, all dressed in expensive suits and watches that cost more than a middle-class family's annual salary. To them, the situation was hilarious, seeing the meticulous Arthur Harrison, known for his obsession with perfection, completely vulnerable in public. "Film this, Charlie," one of them said, pulling out his phone. "This is going to be the meme of the week in our group chat." Lily watched, yet all with a heavy heart. She recognized that look in the people around her, the same expression she saw when she walked through the halls of the private school where she studied on a full scholarship. The look that said she didn't belong there, that she was an intruder in a world that wasn't hers. Arthur, realizing the situation was becoming a public spectacle, felt cornered. His reputation was being tarnished with every passing second. It was then that, in a moment of desperation disguised as arrogance, he looked at Lily with disdain. "Tell you what, kid. You want to help so bad. Let's make a bet." His voice rose so everyone could hear. "If you can fix my car, I'll pay you $50. But if you can't, you work for free at my dealership for a month to learn not to meddle where you weren't invited." The silence that followed was heavy. Lily felt all eyes on her, some curious, others mocking. She knew she was being publicly humiliated, turned into entertainment for these wealthy people. But she also knew that $100 meant food on the table for a week, or the money missing for her father's shop rent. $100, Lily replied with a firmness that surprised everyone. "And if I succeed, you apologize to me in front of everyone." Arthur laughed out loud, finding the girl's audacity absurd. $100? Are you crazy? Fine, I accept. But when you fail, besides working for free, you'll learn to respect your superiors. Lily clenched her small fists, feeling the humiliation burning in her chest. She knew she was being put on display like a circus animal, but she couldn't back down. She needed that money, and more importantly, she needed to prove she was more than just a poor, dirty girl. "I need to get tools from my dad's shop," she said, already walking away. "I'll be back in 5 minutes." As Lily ran down the sidewalk, the group of wealthy men continued filming and making jokes. To them, it was just free fun, an anecdote to tell later. None of them imagined they were about to witness something that would change their perspectives forever. Lily ran through the narrow alleys she knew by heart, her feet automatically finding the safe spots between oil puddles and cracks in the asphalt. Her father's shop was on a side street, hidden between a bar and an auto parts store, identified only by a faded sign that said Miller's Mechanics, General Repairs. John was under a 2005 Ford Focus when he heard his daughter's hurried footsteps. "Lily? What is it, honey? Why are you running like that?" He slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag already saturated with grease. "Dad, I need the small toolbox, quick!" Lily was already rummaging through the cabinet where the organized tools were kept. "There's a Mercedes stuck on Fifth Avenue with a water pump. Problem?" John frowned. "A Mercedes? Lily, you have no business messing with an expensive car. If something goes wrong—" "They made a bet with me, Dad." Lily's voice came out firmer than she intended. $100 if I can fix it." $100? John stopped wiping his hands. That amount represented 4 days of work at the shop. "What kind of bet?" Lily quickly told him about the humiliation on the avenue, the laughter of the wealthy men, and Arthur's challenge. John felt his blood boil. He knew that type of person well, those who treated poor people like entertainment. But he also knew his daughter. Lily had a gift that even he couldn't explain. At 5, she was already identifying engine problems just by the sound. At 6, she was taking apart and reassembling small parts without help. Now, at 8, she understood engines better than many certified mechanics. "Honey, are you sure you know what it is?" he asked, handing her the toolbox. "I am, Dad. It's a leak in the cooling system. From the smell and the color of the smoke, I bet it really is the water pump. Lily checked to see if all the necessary tools were in the box. I'm going to show those men that money isn't everything. John hesitated for a moment. He knew his daughter was capable, but he also knew how the world treated people like them. Go then. But if they try to cheat you or humiliate you further, you leave right away, do you understand? Lily nodded and ran off again, carrying the box that seemed disproportionate to her size. When she got back to Fifth Avenue, the crowd had tripled. People were getting off buses to see what was happening. Drivers were double parking and cell phones were filming from every angle. Arthur was leaning against his car, visibly irritated by all the attention. His friends continued making jokes, but he realized the situation was spiraling out of control. When he saw Lily approaching with the toolbox, he felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Our little mechanic has arrived," Charlie shouted, drawing laughs from the group. "We hope you know what you're doing, because otherwise you've got a lot of work ahead of you." Lily ignored the comments and went straight to the hood of the Mercedes. "Can I open it?" Arthur hesitated. That car was his pride and joy, and letting a child touch it seemed insane. But with so many people filming, backing down now would be even more humiliating. "You can open it, but be careful. If you damage anything—" Lily opened the hood carefully and immediately located the problem. The leak was exactly where she had imagined. The water pump had a small crack, and the coolant was leaking slowly, causing the engine to overheat. It was a common defect in high-mileage cars, even the most expensive ones. She opened her toolbox and began to work. Her small hands moved with surgical precision, disconnecting hoses and removing components with a confidence that impressed even the most skeptical in the crowd. The noise of conversation gradually died down, replaced by a silence of expectation. Arthur watched every movement, alternating between admiration and disbelief. That girl wasn't just trying to fix his car. She clearly knew exactly what she was doing. Every tool was chosen with purpose. Every movement was calculated. There was no hesitation or trial and error. "Where did you get that water pump?" one of the businessmen asked, noticing that Lily had taken a new part out of the box. "My Dad always keeps spare parts for emergencies," Lily replied, without taking her eyes off the work. "Mercedes S-Class uses the W2222 model water pump. It's very common for them to fail after 50,000 miles. The silence that followed was even deeper. An 8-year-old child had just given a technical lecture on Arthur's $100,000 car. Charlie looked at the other men, who had stopped laughing and were now watching with growing respect. Lily worked for another 15 minutes, testing connections and checking the system. When she finished, she wiped her hands on her own clothes and closed the toolbox. "Done. You can start it." Arthur hesitated for a moment before getting into the car. When he turned the key, the engine started immediately, running with the perfect smoothness characteristic of new Mercedes. The smoke had completely disappeared, and the purr of the V8 engine sounded like music. The crowd erupted in spontaneous applause. People who had stopped only out of curiosity were now shouting congratulations to Lily. Drivers honked in approval. The girl who minutes before was seen as a nuisance was now the center of an improvised celebration. Arthur turned off the engine and got out of the car, completely stunned. He looked at Lily, who was waiting patiently beside the toolbox, and for the first time he noticed details he had ignored before. She wasn't just a dirty child. She was an intelligent, talented, and dignified person who had just solved a problem that official roadside assistance would take hours to diagnose. How did you learn that?" he asked, genuinely curious. "My dad has been teaching me since I was little," Lily replied simply, "and I read a lot. I have almost all the technical manuals for the most common cars." Charlie approached, visibly impressed. "Kid, how old are you?" 8. 8 years old, and you know more about engines than most mechanics I know." He looked at Arthur. "Man, you need to pay the girl and apologize, as agreed." Arthur reached for his wallet, but his hands were trembling slightly. It wasn't just because he had lost the bet. It was because Lily had done something that touched him deeply. 3 years ago, after losing his son Michael in a car accident, Arthur had become a bitter and controlling person. He saw vulnerability as weakness and treated less fortunate people with contempt as a way to protect himself from anything that might touch his wounds. But Lily, with her quiet competence and unwavering dignity, had cracked that armor of cynicism. She reminded him of Michael, who at 8 years old also showed impressive intelligence and determination. The difference was that Michael was born with a silver spoon, while Lily fought for every opportunity. "Here is the $100, Arthur said, handing the bills to Lily. "And I'm sorry for doubting you." Lily took the money and checked it carefully before putting it in her pocket. It wasn't a gesture of distrust, but the habit of someone who learned early that promises from wealthy people aren't always kept. "Thank you," she said simply. As Lily packed her tools, several people from the crowd approached. An elderly lady asked if she could take a look at her car, which was making a strange noise. A young executive wanted to know if she did house calls. In a few minutes, Lily had received more service requests than her father's shop received in a week. Arthur watched it all with a mixture of admiration and something he couldn't identify. Perhaps it was remorse, or perhaps it was the recognition that he had judged Lily for the worst reasons. When he saw her walking away with the toolbox, carrying a weight on her small shoulders that seemed larger than herself, he felt a strange impulse to do something more. "Wait!" he shouted, catching up to Lily before she disappeared into the crowd. Lily turned around with a cautious expression. "Yes? What is your name?" "Lily Grace Miller." "Lily, I was wondering if you and your father would like to visit my dealership tomorrow. Just to see it, no strings attached." Lily studied his face for a moment, looking for signs of deception or further humiliation. "Why?" Arthur hesitated. He wasn't sure of his own motivations. "Because I think maybe I learned something today." Lily nodded slowly. "I'll talk to my dad." When Lily finally walked away, Arthur stood on the sidewalk for several minutes, watching the traffic return to normal. His friends had already left, still commenting on the spectacle they had witnessed. But for Arthur, it hadn't been a spectacle. It had been a lesson in humility he hadn't expected to receive. At that moment, he couldn't imagine that the videos from that afternoon were already being shared on social media, and that by the end of the day, Lily Grace Miller would be known across the country as the mechanic girl who had fixed a Mercedes on Fifth Avenue. And much less could he predict that this encounter would change not only his own life, but the fate of everyone involved. The first video appeared on TikTok at 7:47 p.m. that Friday. 8-year-old girl fixes Mercedes on Fifth Avenue and leaves businessmen speechless, the caption read. In less than 2 hours, it already had 50,000 views. By 10 p.m., the number jumped to 200,000. By Saturday morning, it was at 1.5 million. Lily woke up on Saturday to unusual noise in the street. Loud voices, cars stopping and starting, people talking in groups. When she peeked through the small window of the bedroom she shared with her father, she saw a crowd in front of Miller's Mechanics. Reporters with microphones, TV cameras, curious onlookers taking photos with cell phones. "Dad!" she called, running to the kitchen where John was drinking coffee and reading messages on his phone with a stunned expression. "Lily, honey, you've gone famous," John said, showing her the phone screen. "Look at all these messages. People wanting interviews, offering work, asking you to fix cars. And there are reporters outside wanting to talk to you." Lily approached the kitchen window and saw the chaos in the street. A blonde reporter in high heels and a blue blazer was practicing her lines in front of the camera. Several people pointed to her house when they saw her in the window. John's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from TV shows, radio stations, newspapers. Everyone wanted the mechanic prodigy girl for interviews. Between calls, John tried to process what was happening. He never imagined his daughter's talent could generate such a stir. "Dad, I don't want to talk to all these people," Lily said, moving away from the window. "They're going to ask questions about Mom, about our house, about being poor. They always do that." John looked at his daughter, noticing the fear in her eyes. Lily was mature for her age, but she was still a child. All that attention could be dangerous. The phone rang again. This time it was Arthur Harrison. "John? This is Arthur, the owner of the Mercedes from yesterday. Have you seen the news?" "I have, sir. It's chaos here." I imagine. Listen, I want to make a proposal. How about you two come to my house today, away from the reporters, so we can talk calmly? I can send my driver to pick you up through the back." John hesitated. He didn't completely trust Arthur, but the idea of escaping that circus was tempting. "I'll talk to Lily." Meanwhile, at Arthur's mansion in Greenwich, the morning wasn't any quieter. Sophie Harrison, 16, entered the living room where her father was compulsively watching Lily's videos on his tablet, switching between YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. "Dad, have you seen this?" Sophie held her own phone, showing a video that already had 3 million views. "The whole internet is talking about the girl who fixed your car, and they're talking about you too." Arthur looked up from the tablet. Sophie had the same brown eyes as Michael, the same determined way of speaking. At 16, she was in her senior year at an expensive private school, but she always questioned the world of privilege she lived in. "What are they saying about me? That you were prejudiced against her? That you humiliated a child for fun?" Sophie sat on the sofa across from her father. "Is it true?" Arthur turned off the tablet and looked at his daughter. Since Michael's death, he and Sophie had grown apart. He had retreated into work and control, while she had grown up feeling rejected and misunderstood. "It was more complicated than that, Sophie." "Dad, I saw the videos. You ridiculed a child in front of everyone, a child who was trying to help." Sophie's voice trembled slightly. Michael would have hated that. The mention of his late son hit Arthur like a punch to the stomach. "Don't talk about your brother." "Why not?" "Because it hurts. Because it reminds you that before you turned into this bitter person, you were a father to 2 children. Sophie stood up, her voice getting louder. "Michael loved mechanics, Dad. He would have been fascinated by what that girl did, and he would have been ashamed to see how you treated her." Arthur stood up too, his face red with anger. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Sophie shouted back. "Since Michael died, you've become a stranger. You treat everyone like garbage, using money as a shield so you don't have to feel anything. And now you've humiliated a child in front of half of New York." The silence that followed was heavy. Arthur looked at Sophie, seeing for the first time in years that she had grown up. She was no longer the scared little girl who hid in her room after the accident. She was a young woman who knew her own mind and wasn't afraid to face him. "Sophie." "No, Dad. You need to hear this. That girl showed you something you forgot. That talent and intelligence don't depend on money. That dignity can't be bought." Sophie grabbed her bag and headed for the door. "I'm going out. When I get back, I hope you've thought about how you can fix the mess you made." After Sophie left, Arthur was alone in the silent room. He went back to watching the videos, but now with different eyes. He saw Lily working with absolute concentration, ignoring the laughter and mean comments. He saw the determination in her small eyes, the same determination Michael had when he took apart his remote control cars. The phone interrupted his thoughts. It was Charlie. "Arthur, have you seen the news? The girl has become a national symbol. People are setting up GoFundMes for her family, and people are slamming you too." "I know. What are we going to do? This could affect the business." "I'm going to talk to her today. I'm going to try to fix things." "Fix things how, Arthur? You humiliated the girl in front of everyone. It's not just a matter of giving money." Arthur hung up without responding. Charlie was right. It wasn't about money. It was about recognizing that he had treated Lily like garbage out of pure prejudice, and that said a lot about the man he had become. Meanwhile, at the shop, the chaos only increased. The NBC News report aired, showing Lily explaining how she identified the problem with the Mercedes. The reporter interviewed her briefly, and Lily answered with the same seriousness she had shown the day before. "I study a lot," Lily told the camera. "I read manuals. I watch my dad work. Mechanics is logic. If you understand how parts work together, it's easy to know what's wrong when something doesn't work." "And how did you feel when the car owner doubted you?" Lily hesitated for a moment. "It hurt, but I'm used to it. People always doubt me because of my age and because we're poor. But I know what I know." The interview moved the country. Lily didn't play the victim or ask for pity. She simply explained her reality with impressive maturity. The comments on social media were unanimously in her favor, and many harshly criticized Arthur. When John finally managed to get the reporters away and leave through the back with Lily, he found Arthur's driver waiting. During the ride to Greenwich, Lily watched the gradual change in the landscape. The houses got bigger, the streets wider and more tree-lined, the cars more expensive. "Dad, do you think he really wants to help us or just wants to clean up his image?" John looked at his daughter in the back seat. "I don't know, honey. But let's hear what he has to say." When they arrived at Arthur's mansion, Lily was impressed by the size of the house. It was bigger than the entire building where they lived. A well-kept garden surrounded the modern construction, with a pool that reflected the blue afternoon sky. Arthur met them at the door, visibly nervous. He was different from the day before, more human, less arrogant. "Lily, John, thank you for coming." Lily greeted him politely but kept her distance. Arthur noticed the girl's caution and felt a pang of guilt. He had created that distrust with his behavior the day before. "Would you like to see my car collection first?" he asked, trying to break the ice. "I have some interesting machines in the garage." Lily's eyes sparkled for the first time since she arrived. As much as she tried to keep her guard up, her passion for engines was stronger. Arthur noticed the change and smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. As they walked toward the garage, Arthur wondered if he was still capable of doing something right, something Michael would approve of. The image of Lily working on the Mercedes wouldn't leave his head, mixing with memories of Michael taking apart toys to understand how they worked. Maybe there was a way to honor his son's memory by helping another talented child. Maybe there was still time to fix not just his image, but his own soul. Arthur's garage was larger than John's entire shop. Lily stopped at the entrance. Jaw dropped. 8 luxury cars were arranged like an exhibit. A yellow Lamborghini Huracan, a red Ferrari 458, a silver Porsche 911 GT3, a navy blue Aston Martin DB11, and others she had only seen in magazines. "My God," she whispered, walking slowly between the vehicles. Her hands trembled with the urge to touch, but she kept a respectful distance. "You can get close," Arthur said, noticing the girl's reverence. "You can even open the hood if you want." Lily looked at her father, who nodded with a smile. She went first to the Ferrari, opening the hood carefully. The twin-turbo V8 engine was impeccable, every part polished and perfectly organized. "This is an F154 CB, Lily said, more to herself than to the others. 4.0 liters, 570 horsepower. You should change the oil every 6,000 miles at most." Arthur and John exchanged impressed looks. Lily continued her technical analysis, moving from car to car, identifying engines, systems, and specifications with encyclopedic precision. "How do you know all this?" Arthur asked. "I read a lot. Magazines, manuals, websites at the library. And when I don't understand something, I ask my dad or research more." Lily closed the hood of the Aston Martin she was examining. "I've always wanted to understand how the world's most perfect machines work." "And which one is your favorite?" Arthur asked, genuinely curious. Lily walked to the back of the garage, where a gold Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG was parked. "This one, not for the horsepower or the speed, but for the engineering. It's a car that balances power and elegance. The M159 engine is a work of art." Arthur smiled. That was exactly Michael's favorite car. The boy would spend hours in the garage observing every detail of the SLS, dreaming of driving it when he grew up. "Do you want to try sitting in the driver's seat?" he offered. Lily's eyes sparkled, but she hesitated. "Can I really?" "Of course." Lily opened the gull-wing door and settled into the leather seat. Her small hands barely reached the steering wheel, but she closed her eyes and smiled, imagining what it would be like to drive a machine like that. "Lily," Arthur called softly, "I want to make a proposal to you and your father." Lily opened her eyes and got out of the car, returning to John's side. "What kind of proposal?" "I want to invest in your shop. Modernize the equipment, expand the space, hire qualified staff. And I want to pay for your studies at a private school strong in STEM." John stiffened immediately. "Mr. Harrison, I appreciate the offer, but we don't need charity." "It's not charity, John. It's an investment. Lily has an extraordinary talent. With the right opportunities, she could become one of the best engineers in the country." "And what do you get out of it?" John asked, suspicious. Arthur hesitated. How could he explain that he was trying to find redemption, that he wanted to honor his son's memory by doing something right? "Personal satisfaction," he finally replied, "and maybe a partnership in the future when Lily is older and wants to expand the business." Lily watched the tension between the two men. She recognized her father's wounded pride, but she also saw a unique opportunity. "Can I speak?" she interrupted. Both turned to her. "Dad, I understand your pride, but if Mr. Harrison is offering a chance for me to study and learn more, maybe we should consider it." Lily looked at Arthur. "But I have conditions." "What conditions?" Arthur asked. "First, my dad stays the owner of the shop. You invest, but you don't give the orders. Second, I keep living with my dad in our house. Third, I study, but I also keep working at the shop on weekends. And fourth, if I ever want to end our partnership, you respect my decision." Arthur was impressed by the girl's maturity. Lily had thought of everything, protecting her father's dignity and her own independence. "Those are fair conditions," he agreed. "I accept them all." John still hesitated. "Lily, these people don't do anything for free. There's always a catch." At that moment, Sophie appeared in the garage. She had come back from a friend's house and was curious when she heard voices. When she saw Lily, she smiled shyly. "You're the girl from the video," Sophie said. "I'm Sophie, Arthur's daughter." "Lily," she replied, greeting her politely. Sophie looked around, seeing her father and John in a tense standoff. "Did something happen?" "Your father made a partnership proposal, but we're discussing the details," Lily explained. "What kind of proposal?" Arthur summarized the agreement for Sophie, who listened intently. When he finished, Sophie turned to Lily. "Can I talk to you privately?" Lily looked at her father, who nodded. The two girls left the garage and went into the garden. "Lily, my dad isn't a bad person," Sophie began, "but after my brother died, he changed. He became harder, more suspicious. If he's offering help, it's because you really impressed him." "Your brother died?" Lily asked, genuinely moved. 3 years ago, car accident. Michael was 8, your age. He was obsessed with cars, just like you." Sophie sighed. "I think seeing you yesterday woke something up in him. Something good that had been dormant." Lily processed the information. She understood Arthur's change in attitude better now. "I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you. What I want to say is if you accept the proposal, it won't just be you benefiting. I think it will help my dad too, and I'd like to learn mechanics from you." "You? Why?" Sophie laughed. "I've always wanted to understand how things work. My dad never took me seriously when I talked about cars. He said it was a boy thing. But seeing you yesterday, I realized it has nothing to do with being a boy or a girl. It has to do with intelligence and determination." Lily smiled for the first time since arriving at the mansion. "I can teach you, but you're going to have to get your hands dirty." "I don't mind." The two went back to the garage, where they found Arthur and John still talking. "Dad," Lily said, "I want to accept the proposal, but with my conditions." John looked at his daughter, seeing determination in her eyes. He knew Lily well enough to know she had already made her decision, and deep down, he knew it was the opportunity he had always dreamed of for his daughter. "Fine," he agreed reluctantly, "but at the first sign of disrespect or exploitation." "There won't be," Arthur guaranteed. "You have my word." They spent the next hour discussing practical details. Arthur committed to renovating the shop over the next 2 weeks, while keeping John as the technical manager. Lily would start at a private school next semester, but would continue helping at the shop on weekends. "There's one more thing," Arthur said as they were preparing to leave. "There's an auto show at the Javits Center tomorrow. I'd like you to come with me. Lily could see the latest in automotive technology." Lily could barely contain her excitement. John smiled, seeing his daughter's joy. As they were at the door, ready to leave, Arthur's phone rang. It was Charlie, his partner, and from the expression Arthur made, Lily realized something was wrong. "Charlie, calm down. What are you talking about?" Arthur stepped away a few paces, but Lily could hear fragments of the conversation. "Investigation? What investigation? What do you mean, irregularities at the shop?" John turned pale. "What investigation, Mr. Harrison?" Arthur hung up the phone with a grim expression. "It seems someone reported your shop to code enforcement, claiming that you're employing a minor illegally." "That's a lie," John protested. "Lily only helps me occasionally. She's never truly worked there." "I know," Arthur said, "but code enforcement is going to investigate anyway. And with all this media exposure..." Lily felt her stomach tighten. After so much hope, after finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, someone was trying to destroy everything. "Who would do such a thing?" Sophie asked, indignant. Arthur had a strong suspicion, but he said nothing. Charlie had reacted very badly to the news that he would invest in Lily's shop. He said it was madness, that it would hurt the company's image. And now, coincidentally, this anonymous report appeared. "We don't know yet," Arthur lied, "but we'll find out, and we'll fix this." Lily looked at her father, seeing the fear in his eyes. If the shop was closed, they would lose everything. The dream that had been born a few hours earlier was rapidly turning into a nightmare. "What do we do now?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the panic she felt. On Monday morning, 3 city inspection vans parked in front of Miller's Mechanics. Lily was getting ready for school when she heard the noise. In the street. Through the window, she saw men in uniform stepping out of the vehicles with clipboards and equipment. "Dad!" she shouted, running to the kitchen where John was drinking coffee. John looked out the window, and his face went white. "Stay calm, honey. We'll fix this." When they went out to the street, the lead inspector, a middle-aged man named Benjamin Sawyer, was already organizing the operation. "Mr. John Miller, I'm an inspector from the city. We received an anonymous tip about child labor at this establishment." "That's absurd," John protested. "My daughter has never officially worked. Here, she only helps me occasionally, like any child helps their parents." "We'll verify that, sir. Please open the shop for inspection." Lily watched everything with a racing heart. She knew every corner of that shop, every tool, every part stored in the cabinets. It was more than a workplace. It was her second home, the place where she had discovered her passion and talent. During the next 2 hours, the inspectors searched every inch of the shop. They photographed tools, checked documents, and interviewed the few customers who showed up. Lily sat on the sidewalk, watching her life being dissected by strangers. Benjamin approached her. "Kid, I need to ask you some questions. Do you work here?" "I help my dad sometimes," Lily replied carefully. "I pass tools, I organize parts. Nothing heavy." "How many hours a day?" "There aren't specific hours, just when I'm not in school and when my dad needs me." "And do you get paid?" Lily hesitated. Technically, she had never received a fixed salary, but John sometimes gave her money when they got a bigger job. "Not exactly. My dad gives me an allowance when he can." Benjamin noted everything on his clipboard. Lily realized that every answer could be used against them. Meanwhile, Arthur arrived by taxi, accompanied by a lawyer. "John, what's the situation?" "Complicated, Mr. Harrison. They're looking for anything to justify the tip." The lawyer, Marcus Reed, approached Benjamin. "Good morning. I'm the family's attorney. I'd like to understand exactly what the accusations are." "The report claims the minor works regularly at the shop during school hours and that there is exploitation of child labor," Benjamin explained. "That's false," Marcus Reed said. "The girl studies full-time and only helps her father sporadically." "We'll investigate. For now, the shop is shut. Down until the conclusion of the investigation." The blow was devastating. John felt his legs go weak when Benjamin taped the closure notice on the shop door. Without being able to work, he would have no way to pay the rent for the space, nor support Lily. "For how long?" John asked, his voice trembling. "Depends on the investigation. It could take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months." Lily saw the despair on her father's face and felt a mixture of anger and helplessness. Someone had deliberately destroyed her life and she didn't even know who or why. After The inspectors left. Arthur approached the family. "John, I'll cover your expenses while we resolve this, and I'm going to find out who made this report. Mr. Harrison, I can't accept charity. It's not charity, it's justice. Someone is attacking you to get to me. It's my responsibility to fix it." Lily looked at Arthur with teary eyes. "Why would someone do this to us? We never did anything wrong to anyone." "I don't know, Lily, but I'll find out." That afternoon, while Lily was at school trying to concentrate on her lessons, Arthur went to the office to confront Charlie. He found his partner in a meeting with potential investors, presenting the company's numbers. "Charlie, I need to talk to you, now." Charlie apologized to the investors and followed Arthur to his private office. "What's with the face, Arthur? Did something happen?" "The girl's shop was shut down today, anonymous tip." Charlie tried to look surprised. "Really? That's absurd. Who would do such a thing?" "That's exactly what I'm trying to find out." Arthur studied his partner's expression. "You wouldn't happen to know anything, would you?" "What do you mean? Are you accusing me?" "I'm asking. You were very clear on Friday about what you thought of my investment in the shop." Charlie stood up, feigning indignation. "Arthur, we've been friends for 20 years. Do you really think I would do something like that?" "I think you're afraid of losing control over the company's decisions, and you think investing in a poor family will hurt our image." "Because it will. Arthur, have you lost your mind? Investing in a back alley shop because of a kid who fixed your car? This is emotional, not rational." "Maybe it is emotional, so what?" Charlie realized he had revealed too much. He tried to backtrack. "Look, regardless of my opinion, I would never sabotage you or your protected family." "Protected family? That's what she's become, isn't she? You're trying to replace Michael with this girl." The mention of his late son made Arthur explode. "Don't you ever talk about my son, and if I find out you're behind this report, our partnership is over." Charlie watched Arthur storm out, slamming the door. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Benjamin. This is Charlie Sterling. How is the investigation at the shop going?" "Ah, interesting. And what if you found some evidence that the girl really was working there illegally?" "No, I'm not asking you to invent anything, just to be more thorough in your analysis." Meanwhile, at school, Lily tried to focus on her math class, but her mind was on the sealed shop. Her teacher, Mrs. Helen, noticed her distraction. "Lily, are you okay? You seem worried." "I'm fine, Mrs. Helen," Lily lied. At recess, her classmates surrounded her. Everyone had seen the viral videos and wanted to know about her sudden fame. "Lily, is it true you're going to be rich?" a classmate asked. "Is it true you're going to a private school?" another asked. Lily didn't have the heart to answer. She briefly explained about the shop being shut down, and the classmates' enthusiasm turned into pity, which was even worse. "I always knew it was too good to be true," a boy commented. "People like you don't get rich overnight." The words hurt more than Lily expected. She left school early, claiming a headache, and went to the sealed shop. She sat on the sidewalk in front, watching the yellow tape that prevented entry. John found her there 2 hours later. "What are you doing here?" "Honey." Thinking, "Dad, what if they never reopen the shop? What if they find something we didn't know was wrong?" John sat down beside his daughter. "Lily, we never did anything illegal. You helped me because you wanted to, not because I forced you. But they can interpret it differently." "They can, but we have to have faith that the truth will come out." "And if it doesn't? What if we lose everything?" John didn't know how to answer. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt completely lost. The shop was everything he had, his livelihood and his identity. Without it, he didn't know how to start over. That night, Arthur received a call from Marcus Reed. "Arthur, I have bad news. The investigation found some irregularities in the shop's paperwork. Nothing serious, but enough to justify a longer investigation." "What irregularities?" "Problems with environmental permits, some overdue invoices, things that would normally be resolved with fines, but are now being used to complicate the process." Arthur understood immediately. Someone was guiding the inspectors on what to look for, where to find problems, and he was certain who it was. "Marcus, I need you to investigate the inspectors in charge. I want to know if someone influenced them. That could be dangerous, Arthur. If there's corruption involved, do the investigation discreetly. After hanging up, Arthur went to Sophie's room. He found his daughter studying at her desk. Sophie, I need to tell you something. I think Charlie is sabotaging Lily's family. Sophie looked up from her book. Charlie? Why? Because he's afraid I'll step away from the business, and because he thinks investing in Lily will hurt our image. That's disgusting, Sophie said. Dad, you have to do something. I am, but in the meantime, Lily and John are suffering because of me. Sophie closed her book. Dad, can I ask a question? Are you helping Lily because you feel guilty about Michael? Arthur hesitated. Maybe. At first, yes, but now it's because she deserves it. She's an exceptional child who is being hurt by prejudice. Then don't give up on her. Michael would be proud of you for doing the right thing. The next morning, Lily woke up with John shaking her shoulder. Lily, wake up. There are a lot of people in the street. Lily went to the window and saw a crowd in front of the shop. But this time they weren't inspectors or reporters. They were the shop's customers, neighbors, people from the neighborhood. Many carried signs and banners. What's happening? Lily asked. It seems the neighborhood organized a protest to support us, John said, moved. Lily dressed quickly and went out to the street. Mr. Anthony, the owner of the bakery on the corner, approached. Lily, honey, this nonsense has to end. Your father is the most honest mechanic in the neighborhood, and you never worked here. You only helped when you wanted to. Will you testify for us? Lily asked, hopefully. Of course we will. I've already talked to over 20 people who will testify. For the first time in days, Lily felt a bit of hope. But she didn't know that at that exact moment, Charlie was in another meeting, this time with people much more dangerous than simple city inspectors. The protest in front of Miller's Mechanics grew throughout the day. Long-time customers, neighbors, and even people who only knew the story from the news joined the protest. Mrs. Martha, who had lived in the house next door for 20 years, held a banner that read, Lily Miller, pride of the neighborhood. Mr. Anthony distributed free bread and coffee to the protesters. Lily watched it all from the window of her house, torn between gratitude and embarrassment. She had never received so much support, but she had also never felt so vulnerable. The attention was becoming a weight, and she felt like every person in the street expected something from her. Honey, come here, John called from the living room. There's a journalist wanting to talk to you. Lily went down reluctantly. In the living room was a reporter from Fox News, accompanied by a cameraman. Lily, I'm Chloe Morgan from Fox. I'd like to do an interview about the injustice you're suffering. I'd rather not talk, Lily replied softly. But, Lily, your story is mobilizing the country. People want to support you. I know, but... Lily hesitated. I'm afraid I'll say something wrong and make the situation worse. John understood his daughter's fear. Miss Reporter, we appreciate the interest, but Lily is going through a difficult time. After the journalist left, Lily locked herself in her room. The phone wouldn't stop ringing, reporters, TV producers, people offering help, but every call left her more anxious. Meanwhile, at the East headquarters of Harrison Premium Motors, Arthur was in his office analyzing documents with Marcus Reed when he received a call that would change everything. Mr. Harrison, this is Private Investigator Sam Cooper. You hired me to investigate the report against Miller's Mechanics. Yes, did you find anything? I did, and you're not going to like what I have to tell you. Arthur put the phone on speaker so the lawyer could hear. I'm listening. Charlie Sterling, your partner, made contact with Benjamin Sawyer, the inspector in charge of the investigation, 3 times in the last week. I have photos of the meetings and recordings of some phone conversations. Arthur felt his blood run cold. What kind of conversations? Charlie offered money for Benjamin to prolong the investigation and find irregularities. I also discovered that he hired a lawyer specializing in labor issues to guide the anonymous tip. Marcus Reed leaned forward. Do you have concrete proof of this? I have photos, recordings, and bank documents showing transfers from Charlie to an offshore account belonging to Benjamin Sawyer. Arthur clenched his fists. 20 years of friendship, of partnership, destroyed by Charlie's greed and envy. What else did you find? Charlie is also pressuring the shop's suppliers to cancel future contracts. He threatened to pull business from your company if they continued working with John Miller. That son of a... Arthur controlled himself. Sam, I need all this evidence organized to present to the authorities. It's already ready, but there's one more thing, Mr. Harrison. Charlie scheduled a meeting this afternoon with people connected to a demolition company. I think he's planning something more drastic. After hanging up, Arthur sat in silence for several minutes. Marcus Reed was the first to speak. Arthur, with this evidence, we can not only reverse the yes shutdown, but also sue Charlie for slander, corruption, and business sabotage. I'm going to destroy his life like he tried to destroy Lily's, Arthur muttered, his voice heavy with anger. That afternoon, Lily tried to go to school normally, but the situation had become unsustainable. Classmates bombarded her with questions. Some teachers treated her like a celebrity, others with pity. In gym class, she fainted during an exercise. The teacher, alarmed, took Lily to the nurse's office. Lily, when was the last time you ate? Lily tried to remember. With all the stress of the last few days, she had completely lost her appetite. Last night, I think. And did you sleep well? Not really. I stay awake thinking about the shop. The school nurse, Mrs. Patricia, examined Lily carefully. She noticed the deep dark circles under her eyes, the visible weight loss, the tremors in her hands. Lily, you're going through a lot of stress. I'm going to call your father. When John arrived at school and saw his daughter's state, he felt his heart break. Lily, always so strong and mature, looked like a fragile and scared child. Honey, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how much this was affecting you. Dad, I'm scared, Lily confessed, hugging him. What if we lose everything? What if I can never work on cars again? That won't happen, I promise. But even as he comforted his daughter, John wondered if he would be able to keep that promise. Arthur arrived at the hospital where Lily had been taken for a more detailed evaluation. He found father and daughter in the waiting room, both visibly shaken. How is she? He asked, sitting down beside them. The doctor said it's severe stress, John replied. She's not eating or sleeping properly. Arthur looked at Lily, who seemed to have lost years of her life in just a few days. The bright, confident girl he had met had transformed into a scared and vulnerable child. Lily, I have something to tell you. I found out who made the report against you. Lily looked up, a spark of hope appearing in her eyes. It was Charlie, my partner. He's jealous of my interest in you and thinks it will hurt our business. But why would he do that? Lily asked, her voice coming out weak. Because some people can't accept that others have success, especially when it comes from where they didn't expect. John stood up, anger temporarily replacing worry. You mean a wealthy man is destroying my daughter's life out of a tantrum? Yes, but we're going to reverse this. I have proof of everything he did. At that moment, Sophie came running down the hospital corridor. She had left school as soon as she heard Lily was hospitalized. Lily, how are you? Better now that you're here, Lily replied with a weak smile. Sophie sat down beside her friend. In the last few days, the two had become very close. Sophie visited Lily daily, and they talked for hours about cars, dreams, and the injustices of the world. Sophie, your father found out who is doing this to us, Lily said. Who? Charlie. Sophie's face contorted in anger. That disgusting worm. Dad, are you going to arrest him? I'm going to do something better, Arthur replied with a grim smile. I'm going to expose him publicly. The doctor appeared with the test results. Lily is physically fine, but she needs rest and psychological support. The stress is affecting her nervous system. Doctor, will she be okay? John asked, worried. She will, but she needs to step away from stressful situations for a few days. When they left the hospital, Arthur made a proposal. John, why don't you two stay at my house for a few days? Lily needs tranquility, and there you'll be protected from the reporters. John hesitated, but Lily held his hand. Dad, I'd like to, just for a few days. Fine, John agreed reluctantly. At Arthur's mansion, Lily felt a bit more protected. Sophie insisted she stay in her room, and the two talked late into the night. Lily, Do you want me to teach you some things about the luxury cars? My dad has in the garage, Sophie offered. Would you learn that? For you, yes, and besides, I've always wanted to understand how they work. While the girls planned activities for the next day, Arthur was in his office with Marcus Reed, preparing the counter-offensive that would destroy Charlie. Arthur, with the evidence we have, we can not only clear Lily's name, but also ensure that Charlie can never do something like this to anyone again. Perfect. I want him to pay for every tear Lily shed. But Charlie wasn't standing still. At that exact moment, he was in a secret meeting with people Arthur would never imagine his partner knew. I need the shop completely destroyed, Charlie said to two intimidating-looking men. It has to look like an accident. Electrical fire, gas leak, anything plausible. It's going to cost you, one of the men replied. Money is no object, just make that shop disappear before Arthur finds out what I'm doing. What Charlie didn't know was that Arthur had already found out everything. And the next morning, when he arrived at the office, he would find a surprise that would change his life forever. Charlie arrived at the office on Thursday morning with a satisfied smile. He had spent the early morning planning the final details of the shop's destruction. In a few hours, an accident would definitively solve the problem of the meddling girl and the partner who had lost focus on the business. When he walked into his office, he found Arthur sitting in his chair, surrounded by Marcus Reed, investigator Sam Cooper, and two detectives. "Good morning, Charlie," Arthur said in a voice of ice. "We need to talk." Charlie tried to maintain his composure, but his hands began to tremble slightly. "Arthur, what is this? Why is the police here?" "Sit down," ordered one of the detectives, Detective Frank Miller. "Charles Sterling, you are being arrested for racketeering, active corruption, business sabotage, and conspiracy to destroy property." "This is absurd. I didn't do anything." Sam Cooper opened a folder and spread photos across the desk. "These photos show you meeting with Benjamin Sawyer, the corrupt inspector, on 3 different occasions. We also have the recordings of the phone conversations." Charlie looked at the photos, his face gradually turning pale. That doesn't prove anything." "And this?" Marcus Reed asked, showing bank statements. "Transfers from your personal account to an offshore account belonging to Benjamin Sawyer. Always one day before the discoveries of irregularities at the shop." "You can't prove that I—" "We can," Arthur interrupted. "And there's more. We know about your meeting last night with the men from the illegal demolition crew." Charlie's blood froze. How could Arthur know about that? Sam smiled with satisfaction. "We installed microphones in your car, Charlie. We have everything recorded, including your order to burn down the Miller family shop." Charlie finally understood he was cornered. He tried one last card. "Arthur, we've been friends for 20 years. Are you really going to turn me in?" "You stopped being my friend the moment you decided to destroy the life of an innocent child," Arthur replied, standing up. "Michael would have been disgusted by you." The mention of Arthur's late son was the final straw. "Michael, always Michael. You've lost your mind over a boy who's already dead, and now you want to replace him with some inner-city brat." The silence in the room was total. Arthur approached Charlie slowly, controlling the anger that threatened to explode. "That inner-city brat has more dignity in her pinky finger than you have in your entire body," he said in a low, threatening voice. "And now you're going to pay for everything you did." As Charlie was led away in handcuffs by the detectives, Arthur felt a mixture of relief and sadness. 20 years of partnership had ended in the worst way possible. "Marcus, how long will it take to reverse the shutdown of the shop?" "With the evidence of corruption, I can get an injunction today. The shop will be cleared by tomorrow morning." Arthur smiled for the first time in days. He finally had good news to bring to Lily. At the mansion, Lily was in Sophie's room, trying to concentrate on an automotive engineering book Arthur had lent her, but her mind wouldn't stop wandering. She had lost 10 pounds in the last week and slept only 3 hours the night before. "Lily, have you eaten anything today?" Sophie asked, entering the room with a tray. "I'm not hungry." "You need to eat. I brought vegetable soup and toast, very light." Lily looked at the food without appetite. Since the shop had been shut down, she had the feeling that her life was falling apart. All her dreams, all her hopes seemed to have been destroyed by an anonymous tip. "Sophie, Do you think everything will be okay? Of course it will. My dad isn't going to let this slide. But what if it's too late? What if my dad gives up? What if I can never work on cars again? Sophie sat on the bed beside her friend. Lily, you're 8 years old, and you're already the smartest person I know. No matter what happens, you're going to achieve your dreams. How are you so sure? Because I saw you fix a Mercedes in front of a crowd doubting you. If you could do that, you can do anything. At that moment, John entered the room. In the last few weeks, he had visibly aged. The financial worries and seeing his daughter's suffering were consuming his strength. Lily, honey, I need to talk to you. Sophie stood up. I'll leave you two alone. John sat heavily on the bed. Lily, maybe it's better if we just give up on all this. What do you mean, Dad? This fight with powerful people. Maybe it's better to accept that it's not for us. We can move upstate, start over. Somewhere simpler. Lily felt her heart race. Dad, you can't give up. The shop is your life. My life is you, honey. And seeing what this situation is doing to you. John's voice broke. I'd rather work washing cars at a gas station than see you suffering like this. But Dad, if we run away now, they win. Whoever did this to us will know they can attack other people. John looked at his daughter, seeing determination returning to her eyes for the first time in days. Lily, you're just a child. You shouldn't have to carry this weight. I know I'm a child, Dad, but I'm also your daughter, and you taught me that when we're right, we have to fight. John hugged Lily, feeling his heart tighten. How could an 8-year-old girl be braver than him? Fine, honey. We'll keep fighting. At that moment, they heard the sound of a car arriving in the garage. It was Arthur returning from the office. Lily, John, Arthur shouted as soon as he entered the house. I have news. Everyone gathered in the living room. Arthur was visibly excited. Charlie has been arrested. We have all the proof of the sabotage, and the shop will be cleared tomorrow morning. Lily jumped off the sofa, her eyes sparkling. Is it true? It's true. Besides, Charlie is going to indemnify you for all moral and material damages. John couldn't hold back the tears. Mr. Harrison, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Charlie did this to get to me. If anyone should apologize, it's me. Lily hugged Arthur tightly. Thank you for not giving up on us. I would never give up on you, Lily. You gave me back something I thought I had lost forever. What? Hope. Sophie watched the scene with a smile on her face. It had been weeks since she had seen her father show positive emotions. Lily had truly transformed the life of the entire family. Dad, Sophie said, can I make a request? Of course, honey. I want to learn mechanics from Lily. Seriously, not just as a hobby. I want to study automotive engineering. Arthur smiled. If Lily agrees to teach you, I'll pay for the best college in the country. I agree, Lily said immediately. It'll be fun to have a student my age. That night, Lily finally slept, deeply. She dreamed she was in the shop, working on a complicated engine with Sophie beside her learning enthusiastically. John was smiling again, and Arthur watched proudly. While Lily slept, Arthur was in his office planning the next steps. With Charlie out of the way, he had total freedom to invest in the shop, but he wanted to do more than just renovate the space. He wanted to create something that honored both Lily's talent and Michael's memory. He picked up a pen and paper and began to draw. It wouldn't just be a modernized shop, it would be a center of excellence in automotive mechanics, with a technical school attached for talented, low-income youth. Lily would be the first student, but she wouldn't be the last. At the police station, Charlie was being interrogated once more. Even knowing he was lost, he still tried to negotiate. Detective, I can help you with information about other corruption schemes in the city, he offered. Only if it's to reduce your sentence, Detective Miller replied. What you did to that family was unforgivable. Charlie finally understood that he had destroyed not only his own life but also lost the chance to have been part of something special. Envy had transformed a successful businessman into a common criminal. The next morning, Lily woke up early, anxious to return to the shop. When they arrived at the site, they found a crowd waiting. The news of Charlie's arrest and the shop's reopening had spread quickly. Lily, Lily, the people shouted when they saw her arrive. But this time, Lily didn't feel intimidated. Walking through the crowd of supporters, holding her father's hand and accompanied by Arthur and Sophie, she felt strong again. When the closure tape was removed from the shop door, a round of applause echoed through the street. John opened the door slowly, and Lily entered first. Everything was exactly as they had left it. The tools in place, the customers' cars waiting for repair, the familiar smell of oil and metal. Lily took a deep breath, feeling that she was finally home again. "Dad," she said, picking up a wrench from the bench. "Shall we get to work?" 3 years later, Lily Grace Miller, now 11 years old, stood on the stage of the Michael Harrison Automotive Excellence Center, wearing a white lab coat with her name embroidered on it. Before her, an audience of 200 people waited anxiously for her presentation on innovations in hybrid engines. "My name is Lily Miller, and 3 years ago I was just a girl who liked to help her dad in the shop," she began, her clear, confident voice echoing through the auditorium. "Today I am an automotive engineering student and the technical director of the first mechanical training center for low-income youth in the United States." In the audience, John Miller, 41, wore a navy blue suit, the first of his life. His hair was graying, but his face radiated pride and peace. Beside him, Arthur Harrison applauded with tears in his eyes. The 3 years had transformed the bitter businessman into a fulfilled man who had found purpose in something greater than profits and status. Sophie, now 19 and in her second year of mechanical engineering at NYU, filmed everything with her phone. She wore shop coveralls under her university blazer, a perfect symbol of how she had learned to balance two worlds that once seemed incompatible. "When we started this project," Lily continued, "many people doubted that a neighborhood shop could be transformed into a center of excellence. Today, we are graduating our 10th class of young mechanics, and 95% of them have secured jobs at major automakers or opened their own businesses." The Michael Harrison Center occupied an entire city block. What was once just the small Miller shop was now a modern complex, with shops equipped with state-of-the-art technology, classrooms, an engine laboratory, and even a test track for electric vehicles. But the heart of the place remained the original shop, preserved exactly as it was, where Lily still worked on weekends. "Our next project," Lily announced, "is to create a line of affordable electric cars developed right here by Young Americans for the National Market." The crowd erupted in applause. Among those present were representatives from automakers, politicians, journalists, and, most importantly, young people from the inner cities of New York who dreamed of following in Lily's footsteps. After the presentation, Lily was surrounded by reporters, but she had already learned to handle media attention. She answered with the same seriousness and intelligence that had made her famous, but now with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she wanted to go. "Lily, do you consider yourself an example for other poor children?" a journalist asked. "I don't consider myself an example of anything," Lily replied. "I consider myself proof that when a child has access to education and opportunities, she can transform not only her own life, but the lives of many others." "And what is your next dream?" Lily smiled. "To ensure that no American child is underestimated because of where they were born or how much money their parents have." Later, in the office she shared with her father at the center, Lily was reviewing the designs for the new car line when Sophie walked in, carrying coffee and university reports. "How was the presentation?" Sophie asked, sitting in the chair across from Lily's desk. "We secured 3 new investors and a partnership with Mercedes-Benz for sustainable technology development." Sophie smiled. "Remember when you could barely reach the hood of a Mercedes? And you didn't even know the difference between an engine and a transmission," Lily laughed. "Look how far we've come." Sophie had become one of the top students in her class at NYU. She spent her weekends at the center, teaching math and physics to the youth in training. The wealthy, spoiled girl had transformed into an engaged young woman determined to use her privileges to help others. "Lily, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did you ever feel angry about what Charlie did? Did you ever want revenge?" Lily reflected for a moment. "At first I did. But then I realized the best revenge was proving him wrong. Every young person we graduate, every life we transform is proof that talent has no social class. At that moment, John entered the office. As the center's administrative director, he had developed management skills he never imagined he would possess. But he still had grease-stained hands. Some things never change. "Honey, a special package arrived." "For you," he said, handing her an elegant envelope. Lily opened it and read the invitation, her eyes widening in surprise. "What is it?" Sophie asked, curious. "An invitation to be the keynote speaker at the New York International Auto Show. The theme is the future of the American automotive industry." John smiled proudly. "I remember when you just wanted to understand how the engine in Mr. Anthony's Ford Focus worked." "Dad, will you go with me?" "Wherever you go, honey." In the late afternoon, the three of them went to the original shop. Lily liked to end her days there, reconnecting with her origins. As she organized the tools, she thought about everything that had changed. Charlie had been sentenced to 5 years in prison, but served only 2 due to good behavior and cooperation with other investigations. When he got out, he tried to approach Arthur to ask for forgiveness, but he was politely turned away. Some mistakes are too big to be forgiven. Arthur approached them, carrying floor plans for a new project. "Lily, I need to show you something." He spread the drawings out on the bench. It was the design for a complete technological university. "Michael Harrison Technological University," Sophie read. "Dad, this is incredible. The idea is to create the first university in the country specializing in sustainable automotive technology. Lily would be the academic director once she graduates in engineering." Lily studied the plans carefully. "And the students?" "Prioritizing low-income youth with an aptitude for STEM. Full scholarships, student housing, guaranteed meals. No one would stop studying for lack of money." John watched the conversation with admiration. 3 years earlier, his biggest worry was getting money for rent. Now he was participating in the planning of a university. "When do we start?" Lily asked without hesitation. "We've already started," Arthur smiled. "The paperwork was approved yesterday. Construction starts in 6 months, first class in 2 years. As they talked about the future, a school van stopped in front of the shop. Out of it stepped 15 children between the ages of 8 and 12, all wearing the blue uniforms of the center's technological initiation program. "Professor Lily!" they shouted in unison, running to hug her. Lily knelt to get at their level. She recognized in each small face the same spark in the eyes she had at 8 years old upon discovering her. Passion for engines. "How was the visit to the Tesla factory?" she asked. "Incredible," replied Chloe, a 9-year-old girl. "We saw how they make the electric cars, and the engineer said if we study hard, we can work there when we grow up." "Of course you can," Lily said. "You can be whatever you want." While the children explored the shop under Sophie's supervision, Lily and Arthur sat on the benches outside, watching the street traffic. The shop had become an informal tourist spot. People came from all over the country to see the place where it all began. "Arthur, can I ask a personal question?" "Of course. Do you think Michael would be proud of all this?" Arthur smiled, his eyes teary. "I'm sure he would. He always said he wanted to fix all the broken cars in the world. In a way, through you, he is." "And you? Are you happy?" "Happier than I ever imagined possible after losing Michael. You taught me that the best way to honor those we love is by helping others realize their dreams." At that moment, Sophie came out of the shop with the children, all covered in grease and smiling. "Lily, Chloe managed to identify the problem in the demonstration engine all by herself," she announced proudly. Lily stood up and approached Chloe. "What was the problem?" "Radiator leak. The coolant was escaping and causing overheating," the girl replied with confidence. Lily smiled, remembering herself 3 years earlier, explaining the same problem in Arthur's Mercedes. "Well done, Chloe. Do you want to learn how to fix it?" "Can I really?" "Of course, but first you need to wash your hands and put on your safety goggles." As Lily guided Chloe through the repair, John watched with tears of pride in his eyes. His daughter had become much more than a talented mechanic. She was an educator, a leader, an inspiration. Arthur approached him. John, thank you. For what? For raising an extraordinary daughter, for letting me be a part of your lives, for helping me find a purpose again. Thank you for seeing Lily's potential when everyone else just saw a dirty girl. As the sun set over New York City, painting the sky in orange and pink, Lily was finishing teaching Chloe. The other children watched fascinated, some taking notes in small notebooks. Done, Chloe. Start the engine. The girl turned the key and the engine ran perfectly. All the children cheered excitedly. Professor Lily, Chloe said, when I grow up, I want to be like you. Lily knelt beside the girl. Don't want to be like me, Chloe. Want to be better than me. Want to go further than I went, because that's how the world gets better, one generation lifting the next. As the children headed back to the school van, Lily stayed in the shop with her family, because that was what they had become, a chosen family united not by blood but by purpose. Dad, Lily said, hugging. John, thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you, honey, for never giving up on your dreams. Lily looked around the shop where it had all started. The walls had photos of all the graduating classes, thank you diplomas from universities, innovation awards. But what moved her most were the letters from young people who had passed through there and now had their own companies, their own dreams realized. Do you know what I learned in these 3 years? Lily said to everyone. That talent is just the beginning. What really matters is having people who believe in you, opportunities to grow, and the courage to never give up. And purpose, Arthur added, knowing that your success can pave the way for others. Exactly, Lily agreed. The real fix we made wasn't on your Mercedes, Arthur. It was on the idea that dreams have a fixed address. That night, Lily went to sleep, knowing that the next day more young people would arrive at the center, carrying dreams too big for their small realities. And she would be there to show them that there are no impossible dreams, only opportunities that haven't arrived yet. America had gained a new generation of engineers, mechanics, and inventors, and it had all started with an 8-year-old girl who refused to accept that her place in the world was determined by where she was born. Lily Grace Miller had proven that sometimes, to fix an entire country, you just have to start by fixing one engine at a time.